The Great Rift Valley of Africa stretches for 6,500 kilometers and contains natural wonders that are perhaps unequaled anywhere else on Earth. This gorge, which lies inside the Great Rift, is barely 16 kilometers long. It's full of life and beauty, and yet it's called Hell's Gate. Verreaux's eagle is one of the birds of prey Hell's Gate National Park is famous for. The lammergeier, or bearded vulture, is Kenya's most endangered bird of prey. Sadly, they no longer breed here, probably due to disturbance by rock climbers. Hell's Gate lies 100 kilometers northwest of Kenya's capital, Nairobi, and just south of Lake Naivasha. It's a tiny pocket of unspoiled country which is threatened by development. It still contains a variety of animals. The amazing thing is that the animals and rare birds exist at all, right in the path of civilization. Elsewhere in this part of the rift, wildlife has largely been driven out by farming and other pressures. There are no really big herds here, but the animals which do still survive are at least a reminder of what this country was once like. Like much of the Rift Valley, it owes its present appearance to volcanoes that were active hundreds of thousands of years ago. Geologists once thought that the gorge was carved out by the water level of the overflow from Lake Naivasha just to the north. 10,000 years ago, the water level of the lake was 60 meters higher than it is today. Nowadays, geologists believe its origins are almost entirely volcanic. This is Fisher's Column, the lava plug of a small extinct volcano named after the German explorer who discovered Hell's Gate in the 1880s. Buzzards used it as a lookout post long before that. The cliffs are composed of a rock called commandite, ancient solidified lava. There's plenty of more recent lava too. These contorted columns are perhaps only 400 years old. The floor of the rift has been shifting for 100 million years. It's still shifting today. Volcanic activity is never far below the surface, as this very recent lava shows. More positive evidence of the valley's volcanic temperament gushes from the ground at various points along its length. The steam which spurts out of the rocks smells strongly of sulfur. It's partly responsible for Hell's Gate's satanic name. Despite the volcanic fires, there's plenty of wildlife here. The area gets a moderate amount of rainfall, and during the rains, Hell's Gate is transformed into a lush Garden of Eden with a variety of plains game. This is surprising for an area that's increasingly subject to farming, hunting, and other pressures. Within the walls of the main gorge, displaying parties of ostriches are still a common sight during the breeding season. Large families of young ostriches are common. Giraffes breed here regularly too. Secretary birds are among the numerous birds of prey that live in Hell's Gate. The secretary bird is popularly thought to get its name from what looks like an array of quill pens at the back of its head. It preys on lizards and snakes, which it hunts among the star grass of the savannah. The prey on this occasion is the slow-moving but highly venomous puff adder. The blows from those muscular legs are powerful enough to kill a snake. The length of the leg allows the bird to stay out of danger. Often the secretary bird swallows its prey whole, but this puff adder is too large and has to be broken up. Its prey also includes small mammals, which are common in the grasslands of Hell's Gate. One of the most plentiful small mammals is the mole rat. The light volcanic soil suits its burrowings. It makes a thumping sound when it's underground to communicate with other mole rats. When it disturbs the surface, it puts itself in danger. Birds of prey, such as auger buzzards, watch for movement in the grasslands below. The victim, held in one talon, is carried away to the buzzard's eyrie on the cliffs. The nearly full-grown young buzzards wait to be fed. The buzzard's still a common bird, but these same cliffs are also the breeding place of real rarities, provided the gorge doesn't suffer serious disturbance. Unfortunately, it is being disturbed for many reasons. Some are economically necessary, but they all emphasize the need to protect what's left. These huts house several thousand African agricultural workers and their families. Beyond are large areas of vegetable and flower beds. This flower-growing development occupies what was once part of Hell's Gate's grassland. Kenya needs such enterprises, but more and more grass plain is being ploughed up. Nearby airstrips now fly out the crops and flowers. Migratory yellow wagtails profit temporarily from the work of the bulldozer. In the long run, they could be the only wildlife to do so. Unfortunately, there are many other pressures on the creatures of Hell's Gate. Hell's Gate has absorbed the effects of elemental forces ever since the volcanoes fashioned it out of layers of lava and ash hundreds of thousands of years ago. Erosion by water has given the cliffs their present appearance. Over the years, Rainy seasons have washed away layers of volcanic ash that once covered the rock. The debris has fallen to the valley floor, rock as well as ash. Then seasonal flash floods have broken it up and spread it along the gorge, producing the rich soil on which vegetation thrives and wildlife feeds. For about 10 months of the year, Hell's Gate is parched and dusty. Then the rains come, usually in March, and flowers and many forms of wildlife flourish. The female of the diadem butterfly mimics another species, which tastes unpleasant to birds. These mating moths are burnets. Wild bees swarm when a new queen and her colony go in search of a site to build a comb. In a nearby whistling thorn tree, a colony of weavers starts to build. When he's made the intricately woven grass nest, the male hangs upside down from it, fluttering his wings to attract a mate. Hell's Gate is popular with bird watchers. It's possible to see 25 to 30 species in any one day. The coming of the rains is a signal for the white-fronted bee-eaters to nest in the banks of grey pumice ash. They rear their young in tunnels over half a metre long on a diet of insects. The rains can be short-lived and unpredictable. Fortunately, Hell's Gate has other ways of providing moisture for its wildlife. Not this water, it's boiling, but the steam from such thermal springs condenses on the rock above and provides small but year-round waterholes for animals like these warthogs. Birds seek these spots too. Wherever water and fertile soil combine, plants grow, although sometimes in rather precarious positions. Fig trees often appear to grow directly from the rocks, but their roots always reach down to some source of soil. Condensed steam from the hidden fires in the valley below helps support much of the park's animal life. Now that same steam may be doing Hell's Gate a disservice. A drilling rig has moved into the valley, looking not for oil, but for steam. The steam is used to drive turbines. The geothermal station now provides about 10% of the electricity towards the national grid. Nearly 1 kilometre down, one of the rigs has hit a huge reservoir of water, heated by the earth to well above boiling point. The volcanic power that formed the valley may soon scar it, with turbine houses and pylons taking power to Nairobi. Energy is valuable, but so too is nature, and the two must somehow live together. Hell's Gate's nearness to Nairobi poses other threats to its rare birds of prey, whose strongholds are the park's impressive cliffs. The Commandite Rock is like a magnet to climbers. In the past, they climbed freely here and scared off nesting birds. Climbers are thought to be partly to blame for the disappearance of the lammergeiers. Since Hell's Gate was designated a national park in 1984, all climbing has been prohibited except on Fisher Tower. The mountaineers still have the most challenging rock faces to tackle, while the wildlife can breed in peace elsewhere on the cliffs. Unfortunately, climbers have a habit of defacing the rock with details and numbers of known routes. The practice is banned, but the rules are hard to enforce. Whatever the attraction of the valley's floor, the cliffs remain the park's greatest glory. A Varro's eagle soars into its eyrie where its white, newly hatched young waits to be fed. Varro's eagle, almost black apart from its white rump and V-shaped back marking, is the African counterpart of the European golden eagle. As the air warms up by mid-morning, Hell's Gate offers a display of soaring birds of prey second to none in Kenya. Along with the eagles, vultures, falcons and buzzards are all regularly seen. Bateleur eagles are very rare in the park. They feed mainly on carrion, which is in short supply in Hell's Gate. Few predators survive in the area, so there are few kills for the birds to scavenge on. The klipspringer, the word means cliff leaper, are completely at home among the jumbled rocks at the foot of the cliffs. These small antelopes are usually solitary. In the breeding season, males clash over the right to mate. Sure-footed and secretive, they seldom venture far from the rocks. But the creature most at home in this setting is the rock hyrax. Every morning, family groups can be seen sunning themselves on the cliff ledges. The rock hyrax, or dassie, occupies an order all its own, but it's the nearest relative of the elephant. Somewhere far back in evolution, hyrax and elephant took different paths. Both made a success of it. Fossils show that 1 million years ago, hyraxes were the size of bears. The sheltering rocks and plentiful food at Hell's Gate obviously favour the hyraxes. They have 2 young at a time, and one mother often acts as nursemaid to the entire colony's young. They play a very important part in the ecology of the cliff faces. The hyrax is the prime food of Verreaux's eagles, one of the main reasons why these birds hunt these cliffs and nest on these ledges. The eagles have their own special technique for outwitting hyraxes. They often hunt as a pair. Some hyraxes spot them and take cover, but there are always a few who continue to keep watch, and these are the ones the eagles pick out to hunt. Finally, one eagle, usually the female, makes a dummy pass to hold the hyrax colony's attention. Under cover of this diversion, the other eagle stoops. And makes its attack from a quite unexpected direction. A fully grown hyrax weighs up to 3.5 kilos. The eagle can carry its prey back to the eyrie, although it sometimes appears to be quite a struggle. As soon as the eagles are out of sight, the hyrax return to their rock ledges. On the way back to their eyrie, the eagles are mobbed by the auger buzzard for coming too close to its nest. Finally, the eagles return to their eyrie to feed the hyrax to their young, waiting on the ledge. The chick is growing considerably larger and stronger. The Verreaux's eagles add to the wonder and beauty of this narrow valley. Hell's Gate is an exceptional and spectacular national park in the Great Rift Valley, yet this narrow gorge is within easy reach of Kenya's capital city, and so it's continually in danger from human influences. Both it and its wildlife well deserve protecting.
Tomorrow at 7:30, meet the manatee, who may have been the inspiration for tales of mermaids. Are you sure?